Ready? Okay. Now we reach it, right? So this is the last verse. Okay. The last verse says, also, I do not defile all these practices by the stains of the superstitions of the 8 worldly concerns, and by knowing all phenomena to be illusory, without trusting in them, I am freed from bondage. So all the practices that we have discussed so far, like especially the practices of giving and taking, exchanging self and others, all these practices that we have discussed in our earlier verses, these practices, it says one should not pollute it, one should not pollute these practices with the 8 worldly concerns. And these 8 worldly concerns should be seen as the illusory nature, illusory nature. Without trusting in them means without trusting in these 8 worldly concerns, without trusting in 8 worldly concerns, or the illusory nature of the 8 worldly concerns, then may I be freed from the bondage, right? May I be freed from the bondage of 8 worldly concerns. May I be freed of bondage of the suffering, right? So this is what the verses are talking about. This the 8 verses is talking about. So this is what it is purely from the perspective of the true practitioner, right? True practice, the authentic and genuine practice, from the perspective of the true and genuine practitioner, right? Practitioner of the Mahayana practitioner. Because the the test, the practice, these wonderful practices should not be tainted or polluted with the 8 worldly concerns. because why the practices, many of the dharma practices, many of the dharma practices here in this regard is the Mahayana practice of giving and taking. These kind of practices, it says one need to make sure that it does not become the cause of showing off, right? Because once the practices are mixed and polluted with the 8 worldly concern or 8 mundane concern, then what really happens is it becomes the one's own self-interest, right? If it becomes the one's own self-interest, then what really happens is then the great master Jagawa says that the sacred teaching has become the demon, right? And not only this, because so I will talk about the 8 worldly concerns later. So these 8 worldly concerns are gain and first happiness and suffering, and then the gain and loss, right? And then fame and insignificant, and then praise and blame, 8, right? So these are 8 worldly concerns. Now, because if the dharma practice is done or done with 8 worldly concern, then what really happens is now undertaking or engaging in the dharma practice done with 8 worldly concern is, if we try to check what is the motivation, the motivation is clinging to this life, right? Or grasping to this life, or not ready to give up this life, right? So this is the main thing. And then if we know what are the defects of clinging on to this life, is the defect is because then you are not a practitioner. One is not called a practitioner, because if we look at one Sayagya teachings on the 4 partings, if we cling on to this life, one is not a practitioner. If we cling on to the samsara, then one is not practicing renunciation. If one have the welfare of oneself, develop the welfare of oneself, then you are not practicing the bodhicitta. If one have clinging towards the view, clinging towards the grasping, then that is not the view, right view. Oh, this is one thing. So from the perspective of the clinging onto this life, then this is not a dharma practice. And not only this, by clinging onto this by clinging developing the 8 worldly concerns, what it has to do, if we try to check, what it has to do is, because it brings many shortcomings, it creates many shortcomings, it creates many defects. And then there are there are two kinds of there are three kinds of actually eight worldly concerns, mundane concerns. One is black, one is white. The black means black eight worldly concern means now what we are discussing here because we are uh, we come to concern with the eight mundane matters because of clinging to this life, right? Another white eight worldly concern is because we have the grasping, so long as we have the grasping over the eight worldly concerns, mundane concerns, then it is called eight white worldly concerns. Right. So many of the practices, many of our what seems to be really a sincere practice in the beginning, later on, if it is polluted by eight worldly concern, then like we put some footprint on the some mud but then one is wiping away that footprint, right? It's something like this and not only this with these eight worldly concerns, then many the problems, many problems arises, many unwanted things arises. Right. So therefore the great yogi Milarepa say a true practitioner is abandoned. And then so then now as a method to overcome the eight worldly concern, right? Eight mundane concern. Right. So usually, for example, right, we if we try to check, what really, what causes which really give rise to this, eight worldly concerns, Now, for example, like the what is called as fame, what we call as fame or the praise, fame or praise. The what causes the the fame the hope for fame and the hope for a kind of praise, right? Praise. So this is mainly again we think at the fundamental level, we think the fame or some kind of, or the gain or loss, the fame or, insignificant, the praise and, this kind of, the blame. We truly believe, that these are something eternal, something permanent, never changing. Because of this, then what really happens is now we develop attachment towards the, for example, like fame, the reputation, all these things. This attachment. Once we develop attachment, then what happens? Then we develop the craving. Craving is a kind of a mental state which you do not want to separate from the object, of the attachment. Then really what happens is, once we develop craving means that you do not want to separate, because we have already believed that this kind of, the things are something eternal and long lasting. So we do not want to separate. But then things are impermanent, right? Things does not last long, because then there is a time that you have to separate, at all cost, when the causes and conditions are met. When time comes to separate, it gives you the mental pain. One get the mental pain. Even how much we develop the sense of the long lasting, or things will remain forever. The stronger it is, the stronger the painful experience can become. One will, right? And then what really happens is, then this, not only the painful experience is felt, but also then the sense of possessiveness comes. The sense of possessiveness comes, and then many cases, in many kind of delusion arises, the sense of possessiveness. Yeah. Right. It only belongs to me. Then this creates a lot of problem, right? And not only this, and then also the sense of arrogance come, the sense of jealousy come. All this come if you try to check very carefully. For example, right now I'm giving for the example as a, fame and this, how to say. This is very, something very suffering nature, right? If you try to really check very carefully, in the beginning, the people have, wanting to become something famous, popular, fame, all these things, they're being praised, all this. And then you have the problem of not getting, how to say, photo shot, the people taking camera, the journalists coming here and here, there, and, in the first, we have the problem of not getting our photograph, shot. Then later on, then there's so many journalists. Then at one point you try to evade all this issue. You don't want to get photographed. It's some kind of noisy, creates a lot of, how to say, irritated, right? Annoying, coming here. So these are some not long lasting, right? Not reliable, what we call as reliable. And then, and here it's a do not do it worldly consider, because sometimes what we our mind is sometimes very strange, very peculiar. when small incident happen, we feel very happy, when small, we feel very happy when we come with, some good causes and conditions, then which make you someone happy, right? Instantly, something goes wrong, we are unhappy. So our mood is like fluctuating, not, moment by moment, our mood can continue to change, not stable. So therefore, the 8 worldly concerns, they say, let it be, right? Let it happen, small incident, causes unhappy, happy, all this, remain calm. Whether you face with pleasant situation, unpleasant situation, your mind should not be disturbed. Remain calm. So this is what it is saying. 8 worldly concerns. And then many of the, not only 8 worldly concerns, not only 8 worldly concerns, what we call as the permanent thinking, and the grasping this. These two really give rise to all the, all the sort of problem. Now, for example, just give me a very small example, right? We just take a small example. Sometimes it is very helpful, to do some investigation, to do some check, Normally we take for granted, right? Oh, some teacher is saying that that teacher is saying that we don't do this. We do our own, investigation, right? We try to check with our own, and then try to gain the conviction, and then some experience is felt in your mind, right? Right. Now, for example, let's say take whatever object you can take, we can take. Now, for example, this mala, suppose this right now my mala is wood, suppose it is a golden, or diamond, mala, diamond rosary garland. So why we do say is permanent feeling, the sense of permanent, eternal. This need to be, we need to check out, right? Because we believe, oh, this garland, oh, the this garland, the diamond, diamond garland. First, first our state of mind is, something something normal, normal or neutral. And then now we begin to exaggerate our mind. Oh, this is with diamond, I become, if I own diamond, nobody own, such a, kind of, diamond mala. If I own, I get more, more good name, I become something like rich. This is very precious, right? This is something very precious, and then, it really, worth whole lot of money. It's something like priceless. So with all this thinking, we are creating, we are imagining, we are projecting, projecting. We are projecting, and then, but if projecting, it gives a fruitful result, that's okay, but then it does not, give any constructive. Now what it really does, it is it stabilizes one's permanent thinking. It's stabilized, right? It's stabilized. It makes more stronger, And then once we begin to think permanent, now what happened is, now we think this mala is reliable. The value of this mala is something reliable, is something long lasting. No, nothing can happen to this mala, no matter whatever, whatsoever the reason. It will not happen, no obstacle arise. Then what happened is, then because of this permanent thinking and thinking and believing in the reliability of this mala, it gives rise to desire or attachment. Right now, I am taking mala as an example, right? But you can extend to the person is more, serious, right? Then once the attachment arises to the mala, then we begin to exaggerate, we begin to exaggerate. Right. Maybe 10%, little bit, I think so. But, if it increases, the strength of the attachment increases, if it reaches to 100%, then no solution. One cannot find the solution easily. There's no solution. Because when all the causes and conditions comes together, like, for example, the bomb, when the timing is set, all the causes and conditions is, come together, the bomb will explode. Because there's complete, causes and conditions which make the bomb explode. You cannot reverse it back. One cannot reverse it back. So when all the causes and conditions are fulfilled or complete, the result cannot be averted. It should happen, right? So like this. So if it 100%, then what happen is, now for this mala, when you are stolen, my mala is stolen, you feel tremendous loss, unhappiness happen. And then to the extent of going insane, because you do not want to separate from this at 100%. However, as we discussed, things are impermanent, can go through, changes. When something, something unfortunate or incident happened to this, this diamond mala, extreme unhappiness follows. Right. If this unhappiness, if we are skillful, we can use this unhappiness as a cause of, transforming into the advantages. However, if we are not skillful, this really serve as a, can act as a basis for giving rise to the multitudes of suffering, another suffering. So this is what, because the life is ruined. One's life is ruined, right? Ruined, right? Right. Right now, I'm taking only this mala. Many of the things, right. In one of the earlier verse, it says, the moment the delusion arises, you need to check at all the time, because the function of the delusion is in the beginning is not strong. The delusions, when the moment it arises, not strong, that strong, then we get habituated with again and again, with this delusion, then become very, very strong, then cannot be averted easily, right? So therefore, because it becomes so strong through habituation, so one need to make an effort right from the beginning, the moment it arises, right? For example, like, we said, for example, like liquor, right? Liquor itself, the one taste, so right, but then the result is disaster. The result brings the disaster. So therefore, right from the beginning, taking even a one drop, Buddha prohibited. Don't drink, because Buddha know the result would be the disaster, both for both sides, for oneself, right? So therefore, Buddha, very skillful, Buddha stop, and prohibited taking even the one drop. Similar like this, here many of the delusion, the delusions like, if you put the kind of, it's a like oil, if you oil, at first it's nothing, there's nothing, one drop, what it has to, to do. But then once you put the drop, it will spread slowly. So this is the function. So therefore, in order to, we say, in order to lead a meaningful life and joyful life, happy life, need to understand all the whole of the emotions. Right, the whole of emotions. So heavily dependent on the mental, heavily dependent on the mental, what we call a mental outlook, right? And then, so now we need to, we need to, if we were to, if we were to reduce the, 8 worldly concerns, or to get rid of, temporarily, keep to keep distance, to keep away from 8 worldly concerns, they come, the solution, right? There is a solution, right? There are few solutions. Right. First, when this 8 worldly arises in one's mind, this 8, either of the 8 worldly concerns should be seen as, impermanent, eternal. Right, impermanent, because we need to think about the impermanent of these things, right? Impermanent. First, we need to think about the subtle impermanent. And then, the gross impermanent. Now, for example, we may have not idea what impermanent, what permanent is, right? In a day-to-day life, we have this experience, but we don't investigate, but we don't check, we develop this kind of experience, right? For example, right, we visited some place, right? we visited some place, and then after a few years, we saw that same place. We thought, oh, this is the same place I visited. Permanent thinking, right? And then even your friends, or friend or your close one, or this somebody in your who share the same the room with you, and then usually that person for example like is very that person all the time do no good, not good at all, not doing good thing all the time, create problem like this. But one time that person do something wonderful thing, that person do the most wonderful then that you are not expected, you haven't expected. Why you haven't expected is because you believe that person is, the character of that person is permanent, never changing, never changed, right? So if you look at the many of the the some stories, they say, oh, how come oh, that person should never do that, never do that, I know well that person for a long time, but that person does. So that believe, you are believing in the permanent, unchanging nature of that person. Again, this, the believing in the unchanging nature of the, the things and events bring problem, right? Bring what kind of problem is bring a lot of, the desire, the attachment, which in turn give rise to the suffering as a result. Suffering is what we don't want, right? So these things need to be deal with the, it's almost like education, right? Education. So through education, many of our problems are being, external, problems are being lessened, right? Lessened and reduced. So through this, knowledge, internal knowledge, many of our internal problems are reduced. So that we don't have to go to the so-called psychologists and psychiatrists. One can be one's own psychologist and psychiatrist, right? When it comes to dealing with the internal world, Indian philosophy is so rich, very, very rich. Because there is a practice of shamatha and vipassana. When we talk about dealing with the calm abiding and special insight, there comes how to tame one's mind, to come into being right. So either of the 8 worldly concerns take as impermanent, right? Need to be think as impermanent. If we don't meditate on impermanent, then what happened? If we don't meditate on impermanent, what really happens is then we always feel these things are something so reliable. We keep on relying on these things, we keep on. Then if we keep on relying on these things, we keep on searching. We keep on searching for these things. As a result of searching for these things, many unexpected things happen. Which again, is the result is the mental unhappiness. So therefore, it becomes so important to meditate on the impermanent.
感受和思维无常事物的无常的本性，非常困难。
Although we can talk about the, for example, like if I take this glass, it fall down, right? When it fall down, it break. Why it break? Why it break, right? Because very subtle, it's subtle momentarily changing is there. Very subtle momentarily changing is there. Moment by moment, this cup goes through disintegration. Disintegrate, we call disintegrate, right? Changing, subtle changing. So, right. So now, for example, now we take, right? Are there anything which can never get old? Right? Nothing can remain new, fresh for 10 years. Nothing can. This is the nature, the law of the nature. The moment, now if the moment this cup come into being, it has no time to stay static, remain permanent. It goes through changes, very subtle changes. What causes the subtle changes is its own cause makes this cup change. What makes that, the cause? Again, its own cause. So it begins limitless, So everything is interconnected. Things are not easy. One after the one giving rise to another, another giving rise to another. Things are like this. So gaining a really a deeper, understanding, insight that the moment in order to go through this cup into disintegration, it does not need any third factor to disintegrate. Its own causes make it disintegrate. Right. Then, like, can we remain young forever? Right, without changing. And also the time, sometimes here in the United States, the 1 hour, sometimes come, they put switch 1 hour earlier, right? Sometimes 1 hour late. Right. Right. So now, for example, this year, today is what? What date?
Today is August 8th.
August 8th, right? August 8th will never ever come. It slip away, right? It flies. August 8th will never, at this time, it will never come again. Because it will never remain static. The we called today to 12 o'clock, 12 a.m., right? Today's 12 a.m. begins, 12 a.m. is begin to end. Today's, it begins from 12 a.m. and then, 8, right? Today is the August 8. August 12 a.m. 8 August is begin to end with its own 12 August 8.
但是它已经开始8月8号的凌晨12点，虽然说是凌晨是8月8号的开始，但是在12点的当下
Things never go back,
开
right?
始了8月
But there's sometimes there's a picture back in the future. So, so things never remain static. Nobody can
没有
remain
任何的事物能
young
够
forever.
不变
But I don't know these days, there's the plastic surgery, there's so called, I don't know, they make the something, cream make younger,
整容手术让自己看起来更年轻。
So far as the law of karma is concerned,
只要因和缘
there is no, cannot,
你就没有办法
there is nobody that no need to go through the process of aging and sickness and
没
death.
有任何人能够不经过生老病死的。
So things are made in that way, right?
事物
Once
这是事物它本来的本质，
birth is made to
有生
birth is
就会有
made to
病死，
die. Gathering, coming together is made to depart,
就会有分离。
right? All the rising is made to fall,
升起的高楼大厦，
right?
一定会
So also
会坍塌。
the fall is made to rise, right?
坍塌的，坍塌
And then
也会最后又重新升起
come together, depart, come together, coming together.
分离和聚合。
So this has to do with what we already discussed
这些
in a class, that
在我们的课程里面，
there is no certainty.
我们讲到了
There's no certainty. 8 types of suffering. We talk about 8 types of suffering, in which in this all the 8 types of suffering, some become rich, some become poor. There's no such thing. High status fall down, low status goes up.
有身份的
Right.
会
Friend become enemy, enemy become friend.
变成敌人，敌人变成朋友，
Right.
这是我们世间的
Suffering becomes happiness, happiness becomes suffering. There's no guarantee. Indefinite, No, things are not certain,
不定性，不定的
Changes fluctuate.
事物一直在变化的当中。
So if we try to gain all this understanding, then we come to understand finally nothing is reliable.
如果
We cannot, put 100% trust, that this one will give me the long-lasting peace and happiness,
真正的可靠，因为我们有
right? If we also come to understand, then it also lessen our shock, when sometimes we heard the shock in the news, we are shocked. This will also dispelled. Many of the problems are dispelled. If you come to understand the impermanent nature, many problems are dispelled, which we create as unnecessarily. Many of the problems are unnecessary that we create. So these are lessened.
更多的烦恼就会变减少。
Then, once we begin meditating on the impermanent,
一旦我们开始禅修，
so here, although there are different kinds of meditation on impermanent, right?
可以做很多不一样的方法来修行无常的这种禅定、禅修的方法。
And then, but we don't discuss about this impermanent in detail,
今天呢
Yeah.
没有必要详细的来讨论无常的修法。
When the appropriate time comes, then we discuss.
未来时间到的时候呢，我们再来。
But having a brief understanding of impermanent means this, this is thinking about the permanent, giving rise to all this limit, one problem, one after the another, or something. If we get some idea, that's very good, right?
事物的有的自信观念，我们一个一个的问题来接着产生，有这样一种了解就可以了。
Right. Sometimes we need to be a little bit, realistic. We need to be realistic. Some people, feel, because of, the suffering, internal suffering. If we get some, problem, physical sickness, one can go to hospital, right? One can get treated in hospital. Whereas many of the, internal problems, people suffer from internal problems, So it is not that, we do, some kind of patting on the back, oh, don't worry, everything will be okay. It's not enough. If you really want to care for that person, for removing the problem, you have to explain the truth, explain the reality. This is more beneficial, right? Afterwards, once we gain some understanding about the impermanent meditation or reflection on the impermanent, then we move to the second meditation, right? That in this regard, for the 8 worldly concerns are in the nature of dissatisfaction, right? Are in the nature of suffering. So this kind of meditation. When I say the nature of dissatisfaction or the nature of suffering, right? So then we say, for example, like or the fame or praise, whatever, these things are, now we see them as in the nature of dissatisfaction, right? In the nature of suffering. Also, we can take anything, anything, any composite phenomena, right? Composite phenomena, or what is called as compounded phenomena, right? Should be seen as in the nature of dissatisfaction or in the nature of, suffering. Now, right, again, this this mala, this diamond mala. This diamond mala is in the nature of suffering, right? We call it in the nature of suffering. Because why it is nature in the suffering is because it is under the control of karma and affliction. It is under the control of karma and affliction. So whatever is under the control of karma and affliction, this is not somewhat, so fascinating, truly not reliable. Because this is the product. This is the product of what? This is the product of karma. Karma is the product of what? The affliction. The affliction in finally is the grasping. Right. Now, for example, again, we can take for example, my human birth, right? I have somewhat human birth, or my body, because I say my body is in the nature of in the nature of suffering, because it is the production of the karma and affliction.
因为什么？因为我们的身体它是业和烦恼的结果。
How do we know our body, for example, is the karma, is the, is under the control of karma and affliction? Is because
我们怎么样知道说我们的身体是受业和烦恼所影响的呢？
right, when someone, when you have a little cut, we feel pain, right?
有一点点，当我们的身体被割掉小小的口子的时候，我们会感受到很痛苦。
We feel pain. Why we do feel pain is because it is in the nature of that nature.
因为它的
And then if you try to find the cause, what makes the body in such a state is the cause is somewhat, the cause is not a good cause, but that is the ignorance create.
我们产生我们这样子的因，它就是无明的。
Right, and then we have taken into the mother's womb,
然后
why we take a birth into the mother's womb is nobody has created, right? So then one's own craving has met, right? The craving is again to be the main cause for taking one's own rebirth.
我们会有 reverse， 会有转世，这些是因为我们自己的无明，我们的可爱所造成的。
So anything, once we understand that once we understand that everything is in the nature of dissatisfaction, in the nature of suffering, is then what really happens is we really develop a sincere wish, the genuine wish to separate from all these things.
这样的一种内心，想要和这些烦恼所分离的这样的一种心。
Right. So when Buddha taught the Four Noble Truths, the Buddha taught Buddha has such a, he's not, emphasizing on, just temporary, very long lasting, Buddha's plan is to bring the long lasting happiness for the sentient being.
他的目的
Because then trying to, uproot from the root,
是为了
not emphasis on small, they're trying to get it a small, but,
根本上解除，而并
the
不是表面
Buddha's far-sighted vision. Far-sighted vision is because now, for example, we have some kind of illness, right? Suffering. If you take the medicine to get the, to get recovery once and for all, from the root, that is much better.
我们从根本上来解决我们的烦恼。
So this is the Buddha's true medicine,
是
to get rid of, the suffering.
是否真正的
Really taught the method, taught the real solution, the method to how to get out of from the, suffering, so that we don't have to go over and over again, experience the suffering.
去经受这些痛苦，
So this is the Buddha's ultimate intention,
就是他最终的这样一个
Buddha's, the final intention is how to bring a long-lasting happiness. Temporary, he taught the different kinds of method to reach to that destination.
他同样的方法，短暂的方法，暂时的方法，令我们能够获得从痛苦中解脱。
Then, once we get this understanding, then we really get a desire. Desire of what? Desire to seek some kind of, some kind of long-lasting, reliable happiness, reliable joy and happiness that we really develop the wish to achieve or seek.
一旦我们认识到这样的一种本质，我们就会身体上有真正的那种想要。
One question.
Yeah.
Everything is unstable not permanent, why happiness can last long.
What happened?
The Buddha's goal is to teach us long-lasting happiness.
Oh, yeah.
Why happiness can last for long.
What happened? What happened can last long. Yeah.
Yeah, why happiness can last for long.
I guess he's trying to say why happiness is something we need to search and it's permanent.
What?
Like why happiness is long lasting.
What happening?
Why?
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 Oh, why?
Why happiness
Oh.
is long-lasting.
I don't get this.
Suffering is not permanent.
I
So
see.
why
Yeah.
happiness is?
Oh, I see. Yeah, yeah. Yeah, right. So once we remove the suffering, right? Once we remove the suffering, then that state, that removal state, is long-lasting happiness, right? It is the when we talk about the Buddha taught the Four Noble Truths. The last one is the truth of the cessation. Truth of the cessation has four attributes, four characteristics. That means total cessation, peaceful, very peaceful. One cannot compare the pleasures of samsara with this kind of peacefulness state. It's beyond beyond kind of how to say expression, beyond expression, peaceful, and then most satisfying quality. Because in our normal samsaric life, there's not one could say 100%, one could say 60, 70, but not 100%. The most satisfying, because what you have achieved is the most satisfying. And then non-emergence. The fourth one is non-emergence. Non-emergence means once you have destroyed destroyed all the affliction, then because it is destroyed from the root, again never come back. Just like in our normal, for example, somebody make you angry, right? Somebody make you angry, and then we develop anger towards that person, and then after a while, our anger is subsided, right? And then again at another time, again it come, right? In our daily life is something like this, But whereas in the cessation quality, it once you removed, it is removed forever. It will never come back. So this is the long-lasting, happiness, the most reliable, That is the permanent. That is the permanent. Never change. It can never change. Right. So this is so meditation on impermanent and the suffering nature of this outwardly concerns, right? Not only outwardly concerns, the prosperity of the samsara is having the nature of the impermanent, the suffering, the nature of the dissatisfaction, and then the empty and the selflessness. So having the four characteristics. So one need to meditate on all these things, the empty nature, the selfless nature. I haven't taught now, maybe some other time I will talk empty and selfless nature. And another way to apply antidote to this outwardly concern is we call equalize.
平等的说法。
right? Sometimes we gain, sometimes we lost, gain and loss.
我们会获得，有时候我们会失去。
And then when we sometimes in our case, when we gain, we are happy, and then when we are lost, we are very unhappy, right? So what is the reason, right? What can
当我们获得的时候，我们很快乐；当我们失去的时候，我们很痛苦。
again, because when we gain, for example, sometimes, when we do, for example, like business, when we do some business, sometimes things go well. Sometimes things does not go well. This is understandable, right? Understandable. So why, when things, go little business doing very well, we are so happy. When other times, it goes down, we are so unhappy. Why we are doing this, right?
当我们当时坏的事情发生的时候，我们会变得非常的痛苦。
And again, this kind of, the fluctuations of emotion, again, due to what? Due to grasping, grasping and,
我们这样子的
impermanent feeling. This permanent feeling causes this fluctuating in the mood, this one's thinking, right? So, right, and then the praise, the the praise and blame.
然后我们的赞扬，我们的批评。
When somebody is praising us, why we are so happy, right?
为什么？
When somebody is blaming us, why we are so unhappy. So this Master Shantideva's, advice very good, right? When somebody,
大师的建议非常的好，他讲到说，
because when somebody praises us, why we are so happy? Then when we become so happy, then what? Then there's a danger of developing arrogance, a sense of pride. I'm something, right? I'm something extraordinary, something like this kind of feeling, right? Something special.
我们会想，
So why we are so happy?
我是一个特别的，我们会非常。
100 people, praise you.
有100个人赞扬我，
200 people, criticize you. Why we are doing?
为什么会？因为别人
Again,
会变得这么快乐。
100 people blame you for your wrongdoing. We get so upset. We are unhappy. Cannot, difficult to manage. Sometimes.
变得非常的不开心。
Why we are so demoralized, right?
为
It
什么
says
我们会被人
100 people
如此
criticize,
如此的
100 people criticizing you.
当有100
Then
来批评我们的时候，
there's enough reason to uplift your mind. There are 100 person praising you.
当我们同样的，当有100个人批评我们的时候，也有100人来赞扬我
So
们，
that's very realistic, right? Very nice.
这是非常现实的。
If your mind is going very low, then trying to uplift. If your mind is going so high, then lower
我
it,
们的情绪非常的低落，我们应该要想办法让自己
right? Through the practice,
非常的高兴，我们要想办法让它平静下来。
right? So this is, like we call equalizing, equalizing both pain, both praise and blame, equalizing gain and loss equally.
我们要平等我们的利衰，平等我们的成绩。
Whether I get pain, whether I'm being praised, let it be.
无论我们是
When
赞扬，
when I'm being blamed, let it be.
我们都让他这样，就让他这样。
Whether I'm being praised or it doesn't matter.
让他这样，都无所谓。
I will keep my mind calm.
我要令我
Not
变得平静。
the comment not affect my the peace of mind.
外在的这些影响不会影响到
Right.
我们的内心。
I should treat all these outwardly concerned this the loss and gain, you know, praise and, you know, the blame, and then, you know, the fame and insignificant. I should treat, you know, equally.
所有的
Whatever, let it happen.
生机
Something
和
like
变
this.
我们都平等的对待。
Afterwards, right? Then, so this is another way of, you know, applying antidote to the 8 worldly concerns, right? And then and then it goes, and by knowing all phenomena to be illusory without trusting them, I'm free from bondage.
要认知到一切事物
So one need to apply now. This is now one need to apply the understanding of emptiness, right? Or selflessness.
最后一句话讲到，已知诸法无放之，无真理无爱之。这里我们讲到的什么呀？第三种 antidote 对治的方法，
Right.
要空性智慧。
For example, like the some kind of like praise, you know, praise.
认知到，比如说我们讲到说
You are being praised for your, you know, the capability and nature, your the personality, good personality, your, you know, high education, all these things you are praised.
我们讲说我们的身份、我们的地位、我们的教育、
Yes,
我们的学位等等。
Right. And then whom you are praised is you are being praised, right?
是谁被赞扬？是我们被赞扬。
Where is the person to whom the praise is being made? Where is the person?
想问一下自己说，那个被赞扬的那个人，他在哪里？
Where are you praising? Where we are praising, right? Where are we, you know, blaming?
我们所批评的、我们所赞扬的事物，它在哪里？
Right. So there's, if you try to search, you know, the persons, you know, we sometimes believe, oh, they praise, you know, we need the independent target, you know. This independent target, now if you try to search where this independent target that we are praising for, right? The person's head, no. The person's feet, no.
我们去寻找说我们赞扬的这个人，
If you try to reduce,
他的脚，等等，我们去寻找。
oh, then, you know, the so-called, you know, independent praise is being made is, after all, exists not, nothing exists, right?
我们所谓的这种，我们所谓的有称扬的这个对境，这种独立的对境，我们是寻找它的时候，我们是寻找不到的。
So, since there is no independent, you know, existence as a person,
找不到任何一个独立的。
so the praise is being made. When the praise is being made, we get some kind of pleasure. Again, where is that pleasure?
当我们被人赞扬的时候，我们内
Because
心身体一种
the pleasure is derived from the praised.
这样的快乐它在哪里？
The praise is directed towards the person. The person does not exist. Then how can you be, you know, praised?
它赞扬的
How can you get pleasure?
是人，
Right.
但是我们寻找这样的一个我
So
们
if we try to think from that angle,
这样寻找找不到，连我都找不到。哪里
all these 8 worldly concerns, you know, 8 worldly concerns, if you try to search from that, you know, perspective,
从这样的一个角度去寻找，
it really then, you know, reduced. It reduced. This is the method, you know,
真正的帮
the
助
method for reducing the 8 worldly concern, right?
真
To get rid of the 8 worldly
这
concern.
是真正的对峙我们之间把法执着的内心方法。
Once we develop such kind of understanding, such a kind of understanding, then we develop a, you know, then we develop a, you know, kind of trust, you know, kind of trust
一旦我们升起了这样的一种认知，
that this, you know, 8 worldly concern cannot be relied.
我们就会有这样一种
And through that, we develop a wisdom.
方法，是我们
We develop a wisdom that helps you to get freed from all the bondage, you know, the bondage of samsara and the bondage of the delusion.
事物的这种了解， 会令我们升起一种智慧，令我们从世间的幸福当中解脱出来。
Right. And then there is, so, and by knowing all phenomena to be illusory, without trusting in them, I'm freed from bondage.
他们的本质都是无判的，没有自信的。
Right. Illusory means, this, to us, these, eight worldly concerns are seen as real, are seen as real. But then these lack independent existence and true existence, just like the the reflection of the moon in the water. The reflection of the moon in the water is not the moon, real moon. It's just a reflection. Right. So therefore, these are also, the eight worldly concerns we believe to be independent existence, true existence is the reflection, but not the real, right? These eight worldly concerns are in the nature of are devoid of inherent existence, independent existence. Right. Something, eight worldly concerns, for example, are like something which lack independent existence. Something which lack independent existence, if we try to see it as independent existence, we will suffer. We will suffer. Because why we suffer is because we have crossed the limit. Even they have some limit, right? For example, in California, if you drive, if there is some certain, limit, driving limit, right? You can drive, how fast you can drive. But if you cross the limit, then there's a problem, then problem arises. Similarly, things have its own nature, some kind of nature, some kind of their, some kind of the instinct nature. But if we break the law, we will suffer. Right? Our own experience tell us we need to eat food, right? Of course, we get to eat food, without proper food we will die, we won't survive. But if we eat beyond the limitation, then we will suffer. Right. Medicine, medicine is just for curing the illness. But if you say, my headache, one medicine is not enough. If you take a handful of medicine, and then you will die, because you have crossed the limit. We have crossed the limitation. Right. So everything is a limitation. In the natural law, right? Things are impermanent. Things are in the nature of dissatisfaction. Things are empty. Things are selflessness. By contrast, if we believe things are permanent, although things are impermanent, if we believe things are permanent, although things are in the nature of dissatisfaction, if we believe that things are in the some kind of essence, having some kind of satisfaction, things are and then things are having some kind of independent self, intrinsic self, intrinsic reality. So this is a point where we begin to suffer, right? Begin to suffer. So just gaining some understanding will, lessen, lessen extremes, right?
会降低我们
So these are things are very, very, the important. So then what time? I think
11:36.
11:36. I see. And although there another method like identifying the moment that this kind of for example in some kind of meditation the moment the delusions arises we never try to stop them, just trying to there's a one method for looking into it looking at into it, never trying to stop this.
来帮助我们
As we try to look into their nature
关照它，关照
they finally dissolved
当我
and
们
then
关
this
照
dissolution
关
makes
照
you to gain more clarity of the nature of the mind.
当我们关照自己内心的时候呢，这种烦恼就会消失。
Right.
How do you practice?
Huh?
How do one practice looking at it?
Yeah, this not I just share not related but for this this is mainly concerned with, for example, like this kind of meditation, Mahamudra meditation. It comes with Mahamudra meditation and also comes with some kind of Mahamudra meditation.
关照自己的念头。
So then which involves looking into the when the thoughts arises just try to look into the thought rather than trying to stop it. You try to journey and go into it and then see, and then slowly it will disappear.
仅仅是
Right.
采取这种关照的方式，我们的情绪，我们的负面的情绪它就会消失。
This is not included in here. I just just
不相信讲
talk about these things. I talked briefly about this because when we taught the teachings we just sometimes need to talk about the,
我
for example
简单的讲完了这个修行发生的内容，我们在
the mostly some kind of suffering suffering and dissatisfaction, all these things.
这些内容，虽然讲了是修行发生，但是我们已经包含了一些关于土地啊等等这方面的内容。
Because if we try to come to understand the suffering nature and dissatisfaction nature,
其他苦的令人不能够得到满足的这种，
then we want to then we wish to overcome.
那我们就会升起这样一种
Sometimes, right, what happens is
战胜克
and we can talk about the the love, the kind of the cherishing others, more important than oneself,
经常讲到说我们自己
and that
心里面
this
会讲到说
many of the
自己胜过于真爱他人。
right, but sometimes sometimes we are although we are talking about for example like we need to be a good
有时候我们会谈论
good human being, nice human being,
我们要做一个好
help other, right? need to do meditation,
禅修，
right? But then, in order to do this, we need to gain some conviction, right? Conviction, a real conviction.
一定要升起这样一种定解、确定的了解。
Conviction. And then by doing all these things, you will get happiness, right?
确定什么样的了解呢？就是说，我们去做这些事
We
情，
will get happiness.
定的过程
So we need to, if we get happiness, how do we get happiness? We need to get conviction, right? If we don't get conviction, trying to do all these things, after a while, you get tired. Because don't feel like carrying on. Don't feel like carrying on because you lack the conviction
因为我们缺少
that this really, is a long lasting, thing that you need to do for not only the benefit of others, also for the benefit of oneself.
是为了自己同样的也能利益到他人。
Whereas on the other hand, when we talk about this, the suffering, the dissatisfaction nature, we all experience it. We don't want. We want to get out of from it,
我们都不想要，我们
right?
想要从中获得
So
脱出来。
through experience, through experienced and through logic,
通过我们的逻辑
we
分析
gain a much deeper understanding, conviction.
认知，我们就
So this gives you more sincere desire, genuine desire
思维
that
有一种更
that I need to get out of from this. Otherwise, things would be endless, right?
不然的话，
I should not be in that situation, in that kind of situation.
不然我会在这样的一种条件下永无止境的轮回。
If we do not want to get into that situation, then we have all the method, right? We have all the solution.
各种各样的方法，我们需要去实施它。
So therefore, dealing with all these things makes sense.
因此，这样子我们才会说，修行八圣的内容，它会真正的变得有意义。
So yeah, then
道理，
telling with this and then telling some small stories, helpful.
我们通过这个课程，然后呢讲到它的内容，然后呢补充了一些小小的故事，这样子呢可能会对我们的了解理解。
Otherwise, I also know a lot of stories, I can tell the whole class story, but it wouldn't, be, helpful. I can tell many beautiful things, very nice things, without talking much about this. I know.
好像并不是很有帮助。
But for the temporary, it helped, but long lasting,
我已经
I don't know.
相关的这些内容没有办法让我们有长期真正的这种修行上的利益和帮助。
Okay, then better. Today we better
好，那今天
stop right now.
那课程的
This
内
we
容
have.
讲到这里。
Yeah.
The prayer,
Huh?
prayer.
Oh yeah. Prayer we are doing, yeah. This one, huh?
We chant this first and then do the prayer.
Yeah. Right. So I think I forgot to tell this. I received this from, I think, from His Holiness the Dalai Lama, the transmission, and also from Chöndé Rinpoche, His Eminence Chöndé Rinpoche.
然后师父说，这个修行发送的传承呢，他有从达赖喇嘛和觉真仁波切那里获得。Actually, Venerable,
Huh?
could you please give us the order of transmission? If that's okay. Can we just listen to you?
I already read, right? So you all have, yeah,
Okay.
you already received, yeah.
我们
I
已经
already read.
一起读过几次了，所以我们已经获得了这个修行发送的念诵的口传。那我们今天呢，还像往常一样，
We read, right?
修行发送的这个文本呢，
Dani senji tanchela Tucho lube sa sorry, done. Ishino bole la Tujin rube samba Ado jeba Kanda sudan tobe se Da ye kule meta shi Shela sabata bai Chodo jivani Chuna kuidura Ojinye moge manza. Okay. Yeah, you continue to read. Yeah. Dala shen yi ta do ki she go la so mi be kyung ga ran gi le ba ye ga shen la mi wa shu Kala da ki pe da re va che va ka shi gi shi do me re ne che na shi nye ta ba da va shu do na ngue da yu ba Pende mana kula ma ye ne ta do ye ku sa ve da la le ba chu te da ku kya chu ke ki to be ti ma ba shin Chögen yoma shebe sheme chewa le cho. Oh, this one, another prayer.
那另外一个祈祷人呢？今天我们刚才已经发布了 prayer to
Yeah, Tibetan.
中文的也有，但是中文
Oh, if you read it in Tibetan phonetic, if you cannot follow, then you they just reflect on the meaning. Think about the.
就是说呢，我们 I have the Chinese.
Ah.
I have the Chinese.
Oh, Chinese.
But the words not the same.
Ah.
I think Tibetan has 2 more words each verse. So maybe what we do is we can do Chinese with the Tibetan phonetic.
Oh, okay.
You do Tibetan.
Yeah, yeah.
But then I need to tell them to repeat.
Okay.
One word twice because Tibetan is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Tibetan is 9 syllable each verse, right? 9 syllable.
I have no idea.
9 syllable one sentence 9 syllable. Verse 7. Let me check. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Okay.
Okay.
等我一下。
Okay.
1 minute. Let me
Okay.
count it.
Okay.
我们刚才我们还有一个祈祷嘛，就是我们英文的呢是已经发给你，中文呢就是发在我给你们发的这个 line 上面有他比赞他是圣观自在大悲上。那师傅呢，他说他用藏文来念，但是呢藏文呢是9个字，我们的中文呢是7个字，那我们呢还是用中文来念，但是呢我们把倒数的2个字，比如说圣观自在大悲藏呢，我们就念成圣观自在大悲，大悲呢重复一遍大悲藏，然后每一句呢我们都这么念，就是倒数的倒数的2个字呢我们念2遍，这样呢字数就是一样，好吧？大家能够我们跟一起。
Yeah, this prayer is a powerful prayer, right? You know.
So we do the Chinese.
Yeah. Paba jere siwa to jete koda jeba dala gong so se da da pa ma ri tu sen che na 유도 코베 소레 제도세 사다야제 라메 찬주세 유도 유라 케와 제도세 레다녀 모도네 디디게 도제 차기 요도 다제네 도제 차야 다단로와 대와 쟁기 시대랑 소스 밤에 다 제레시와기 세라그도 예외시제네 마노랑사 레바데네 요도사게 살라샤도스 동물의 존재 속에 다 간제 계획 중에 zon가 노상 차례 샤블라서 Okay. Okay, done.
今天的课呢，我们就上到这里。Honorable, what do we teach? What's the class next week?
So next year next week I discuss, right, 1 week after the class, some kind of
Meditation.
Yeah, meditation, like how to do the kind of breathing meditation. There.
下次课呢，就是说，他之前有答应我们说，下一次课呢就教我们能不能做禅修，特别来说，方面的禅修。OK， 那今天大家有什么问题可以提出来，如果没有问题呢，就到这里。
Your question?
有没有问题来？啊，OK。Ella 有 question. Ella has a question.
We'll give, yeah.
Okay.
I have a question.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
这样让它关掉它启动。
Okay.
My question, you just mentioned that you have a lot of story and you know, sometimes when I listen to the stories,
Huh?
to me they're just stories. I cannot relate or resonate. How can I deal with that? I'm just like, to me it's like I'm just listening to stories and I cannot really relate. Even some of the stories, I find it, I can't even think that's possible.
I see. Interesting. I see.
My question is, how should I place my heart
Uh-huh.
when I listen to the stories?
Normally, what? Yeah, you're right.
Because they're not just stories; they have a much deeper meaning.
That's right. Yeah.
To teach us.
Mm,
And
right.
and I think I truly needs to believe and relate to it.
Uh-huh.
So how can I
Yeah, normally.
how can I teach myself to say that?
Normally, this we say in the one expression we say the biography and the life story of the Buddha is the practice of the followers, right? So all the, if you try to see some of the they are usually it is very helpful. It is very helpful to know the biographies of the many great masters, because many they all come into this earth. They all come into this earth to demonstrate or to teach others. To teach others. To teach something which is related to the practice, right? Now, for example, just take a simple example like, I think the 8, this 7 limb practices. We call 7 limb practice, right? Huh? You hear?
宝霞，你可以 mute 一下吗？哎，确实，不好意思，刚刚被吵进来了。不好意思 ，Ella，因为他那个有点不好意思 ，Ella，因为他那个有干扰，所以呢，我就帮忙翻译好，这样的话就没有干扰。好吧。
Right.
Okay.
So there many great masters, true great masters, they come into this world to benefit the others, right? To benefit the followers. So their intention is to benefit, right? And then I think there are many biographies, right, of the great masters. Some are really which really makes you feel something inside, right? Because if the life stories, some are life stories, for example, it is very somewhat practical. That person, the other person, the master, they something they went through is looks similar to yourself, right?
大师呢，他的传记里面，他的这个人生的履历，有时候会跟我们很相像、很相似。
Right. For example, so we are ordinary, right?
我们都是普通的人，
We are ordinary, and then the master also because they come into this earth
而
to
这些大师们
to help us,
他们来
right?
到这个世间，
To help us, to guide us.
引导我们。
If they need to help us, they need to act according to our, mental disposition, according to our mentality.
他必须
Right.
他的行为要能够
So in that case,
内心能够相应，
they, kind of like displaying, having some kind of,
他们会
problem.
显示可能会有各种各样的问题。
And then, for example, the great, the yogi, like
这些是
the great yogi like Milarepa, right?
没有人把他
I think his life story suited
他的
to
人生故事
many people
和很多人，
because he was somebody who is like us, very, kind of,
他最开始的时候和我们是一样，
right?
拥有各种烦恼。
I mean, if not, one could say,
我们可以说，
he as an ordinary, we are much better
他看起来在他最开始的时候是一个很普通人，而我们相处来，
because we haven't took the life of,
比他更好
the life of the others.
因为我们从来没有杀过人，
But then, he really, committed something, real crime,
却
some, unbelievable, unimaginable crime that he has.
想象不了。
But that the person, really rose from the ash to become one of the most beloved,
但是他确实就像从灰尘里面，从尘土里面出
right? One of the most beloved saint and poet in the land of snow.
变成了一个
I mean, his name,
上帝
spread throughout the
亲
world,
爱的他的教法，
right?
他的
So sometimes, the biography is something related to your own experience, much very helpful.
我们要把它给联系到自己，和
Because-
自己的经验能够相联系起来，这样子可能对我们有一些帮助。
Sometimes if we talk from the very, very high level, it does not go well into our mind because we are ordinary,
高大的、很高尚的这个角度来看，
cannot fit well.
内心的
Something, whose, life story depicting our life story, same like our story, goes very well. It gives you inspiration. That, oh,
自己的人生能够相应，
this really, possible.
这样子
That person really,
说
transformed. Why I'm not
这样子的
transformed?
人都能够实现成功，那为什么我不可以？
Right. This is another thing.
是另外一点。
Another thing is many, and also the biographies of the, the many authentic masters. For example, the real masters,
很多真
for example,
大的大师他们的传记，
when we offer the, 7 limb practices,
当我们
7 limb
当
practices,
我们在供养七支供养的时候，
there's a one practice called not the, not requesting not to pass away.
我们其中有一
Right.
支呢叫请佛住持，
Requesting not to pass away, requesting not to pass away. Why? Right?
为什么要
Why we are requesting the masters to not to pass away?
大师们长久注视，不要注视，而不要呢离弃我们。
Right. So, although for them,
虽然对于他们来说，
I'm talking about the qualified, the true,
真正的
aging and death is beyond.
真正的
For them,
生死
aging
有
and
些
death
大
is just, nothing. It's a beyond.
生与死，它已经超越了生与死的界限。
But then although aging and death and all these things, they have nothing to do because they have the Vajra body. Because they have the Vajra body,
他们的
this Vajra body
生死
is beyond aging and death.
对他们本来没有生死，因为他们的身体
But then still they display death. They display, having problem,
显现为有肉
look like ordinary,
有各种
having
各
some
样
kind of sickness,
看起
death.
来的
Why?
有各种疾病，为什么呢？
Because they teach us lesson.
因为他们通过这样子来给予我们
They really teach us lesson.
教导我们，
Look, we also have to go through the same,
会
path.
告诉我们什么都要，我们也看，我们也在经历生活。
Right? If they really, having all the, qualities, such a, high degree of qualities,
他们有这样
even if they, go through the process of aging and sickness and death, of course, we, needless to say.
显现了生长病死的，
So
他们有这样的功能，他们都
the biographies, the life stories, they have the great potential, a true potential
这些大师他们的传记有很大的
True potential
潜力
to make you,
来
you know.
帮助我们。
So, for example, right, I think,
说
for example, in the community, right, if the community of you have, maybe 10 friends, if you, 10 friends, 10 friends, if you stay with 10 friends, 10 friends are very nice people, very good people, you get there, how to say,
都是很好的，很好的。
you also, you also get the good personality, right?
我们也
A good character.
我们受到十个朋友的影响，我们也会会变得很好，变得有好的性格等等功德。
Like similarly,
这样
if you stay with 10, 10 bad person,
我们
10 bad people,
十个不好的人在一起，不好的朋友在一起，
you also character also become like
我
that.
们自己也会受到他们不好的影响。
Similarly, if the more you read the biography of the or biography of the stories of beautiful stories,
这些大
slowly you get this,
慢慢的，
the habit,
我们也会受到
their personality also,
受到这些大师的
you get their own personality,
性格的影响。
good personality,
我们会
good qualities.
我们有
You are impressed by their good qualities,
对他们的功德，对他们的好的功德的受到
right? So through this, reading the, story is also very important, Through this, we can improve,
通过
you know.
这些故事呢，给我们动机，给我们一
We
些
really get improve, I believe,
去增长。我们一定会这样，是不是？他相信是这样。
I love also, a lot of the biographies of the many masters,
他自己来说，他读过很多大师的传记，
right? Or something like this, right? Reading this really helpful,
经常读大师的
helpful.
传记呢，会很有帮助的。
I prefer the reading biographies than celebrate.
师傅说他更喜欢说读诵大师们的传记远远超过于说做一些仪式的赞叹供养这样。
Yeah.
OK，
Venerable,
好，那今天呢，我们上课就到这里，然后呢，你们跟刘浩呢一起讨论。
All right.
Thank you, Venerable.
Oh, you're welcome.
thank you very much.